Hello, Maureen here, Hypnosis Rebalance, sitting with Paul Martin again. Would you call yourself a spiritual life coach? Is that right?
That's okay, yeah.
I think he's a bit embarrassed about that. But anyway, whatever you call yourself, it's Paul Martin from Australia. I'm talking to him again in the Garden of Paradise again, talking about the subject of loneliness. So, my question really is, are we more lonely as a society? Because I kind of feel that we are, and I'm kind of thinking, why is that? And I'm also thinking, how do we resolve that? And why is it important to make connections, even? Maybe the internet's enough. I don't think anyone really thinks that. But are we more lonely as a society? Do you think that?
I think that we have not harnessed the power of the technology that we have, and society seems to be in this kind of, uh, we're all so mesmerized
Mm, mm.
by, the bells and whistles of technology. And I don't think collectively, I don't think we're really utilizing the technology for our best advantages. We're using it for, playing silly games or, you know, um, having arguments online, and people make it's like their hobby is to actually create.
Sure, I think technology can be a little bit of a buffer between real connections with people, but I'm just looking at whether it is actually true. So I was reading that the largest growing section of the community is single people. So then less people are committing to relationships or having families or getting married and doing that kind of stuff. So what's that about, do you think?
Well, there's if you read the newspapers or what's TV, any of the media, there's kind of a collective story, and I think there's a lot of fear globally because people buy.
So stop you there. What do you mean by collective story? A
Well,
collective story about.
there's we have a sense today that of war and security and terror and
And does that make people less inclined to, build relationships, have families, and all that kind of old school stuff?
well, when if we subject ourselves to, it's like we're living in a bubble of fear, and fear divides us.
Mhm.
Fear
Mhm.
disconnects us. So fear is contracting, and so if we expose ourselves to stories that induce fear, then we're more likely to live in separation from each other.
Okay, well, that's interesting. So that's a kind of old divide and rule idea. And I think there is something in that. I think people are very fearful about any kind of commitment, the idea of commitment, the idea of committing to one person or having children and all the responsibilities. And yeah, I think there is a hell of a lot of fear involved in that. And also, the fear of whether you'll be able to cope, for God's sake, living in a society of supposed scarcity, and are you going to be able to support yourself, let alone a family or a partner? It's all that kind of stuff. So I think you're onto something with that. Um, so how do we get over those fears? Is the question, I guess.
Well, I think the simplest advice I could give is turn off the TV.
Oh yeah.
I t-
Actually, I stopped watching the news. Stop watching the news. Stop reading newspapers. It is helpful. It is helpful, actually.
yeah,
Yeah, very good advice.
newspapers thrive on bad news.
Mm,
So,
mm.
if you regularly read the newspaper, if you're regularly watching the news, uh, then what you're doing is you're willingly um, exposing yourself to stories that are going to increase fear. And
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Fight or flight, fight or flight. We're kept in a permanent state of fight or flight, and uh, so overcoming that. So I think that's a good starting point. I would also say overcoming it through. In a way, it's like going beyond your comfort zone. So I think connecting with people through things that you enjoy, that's a good outer layer of the onion to sort of connect a little bit deeper. And not relying on your devices. Actually meeting up, with the real person here is like going to be a very different experience from your experience of looking at people on the internet. Um, but I think the fear, well, it's interesting that it stopped people wanting to even do what would be considered quite a natural thing, which is like create a family, have children, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, that seems a natural thing to do. And you sent me, I know you didn't want me to read this up, but I am. You sent me that letter, go on. So tell me a little bit about the letter you sent me.
Well, I don't think it should be a surprise to anyone that there are, that there are designs of social control, and the most powerful uh, tool perhaps in their arsenal is division.
Mm, mm,
Artificial.
mm-hmm.
In the Willie Lynch letters from the.
That's what he sent me, Willie Lynch letters. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
quite chilling if you read them.
I mean the subject in the Willie Lynch letters where he talks about it's very easy to keep the slaves on the plantations under control, and that is you give one group of slaves privileges that the others don't have.
Mm, mm.
And what that does is it keeps them fighting amongst themselves while the slave owners just merrily, make their profits off both.
So I think you can draw your own analogy from that, and we can see that. We can see that happening in our own society, can't we? And the divide. I remember I did this course once where they described the fact that the fact, the idea that we're all in cells, we're all in prison, but some of us have got nicer looking prison cells. And that always struck me.
Well, that's similar to a little story that I have. Is that the prisoners have been given the keys to the prison, and every day we lock ourselves up through our division from each other. We actually have everything within us to actually live a free life of abundance and love and sharing. But when we buy into the rules of the prison, we imprison
So
ourselves.
don't buy into the rules of the prison, guys.
So one of the things I tend to discard any voice, in the collect, whether it's on news or politicians or media, whatever, anything that focuses on division based on differences, whether it's we have the Christian Islam thing or the West and I just see that as I just don't buy into it. I believe that we're all, there's only one human race, and we're in this together. And I think that the one thing that all of the countries, all of the religions, I think if you took each person individually, if you go to the core of what's in a person's heart, you'll see that we all want the same things.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So it's almost like there's this like psychopathic element, I would call it a parasitic element of the human psyche, if you like, that's kind of taking control of us all, but we're all kind of tuned into it, unfortunately. So we need to tune ourselves out. So I would say a good way to tune out is to start, oh God, this is going to sound really hippie, right? But to start kind of, I like to meditate. I think meditation's a useful thing, but just to relax, just to have time to like settle your mind, to slow your mind down, and all the kind of idea of being proud of being working and being busy. We're so proud of it. Don't be proud of that. Be proud of your connections to people. Oprah Winfrey story. I said it before. Oprah Winfrey.
Angela.
Oprah Winfrey and Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou was like the mentor of Oprah Winfrey, and I think she created these schools in Africa. And she said that's going to be my legacy. And Maya Angelou said, "You don't know what your legacy is going to be." And then I questioned her about it, and she said, "Your legacy is going to be every person you've touched." And I just love that. I just think, yeah, right on. That's what it's about. So it's about connecting with people. And I think connecting through something that you enjoy or interesting is a good starting point, but certainly really connecting. Rather than the old all those dating apps are so scary. Oh my god. Anyway, I hope you got something from this discussion, and I think the point for me of having this discussion really is to just put it out there that it doesn't have to be this way. That perhaps, I think you're right, perhaps there is something going on that is slightly consciously pulling us apart. Just to be aware, we don't need to be apart, we need to be more together, we need to be more cooperative. Let's throw that one out. So thank you for listening. Any last words from you, Paul?
Yeah, I think that if people want to improve the quality of their life, they need to disconnect from the stories of fear. We need less doing, more being.
Yeah, that's what I meant earlier.
Being more present.
Mhm.
When we're in our heads, we're disconnected from our bodies.
Mhm.
We need to walk in, amongst the trees. We need to feel, we're actually, we are a biological entity. We are a part of nature. We are nature. We have our nature,
Mhm.
and like we sit here in the garden and we see the way the birds interact. There's different animals around,
Mhm.
and we need to be more of what we are, and we thrive when we communicate, when we cooperate, when we connect. I think we need to give more time to that part of our reality.
I couldn't agree more. Let's not glorify work and being busy, eh? It's not a glorious thing to do. It's a glorious thing to connect with people. It really is. So thank you for listening today. Really appreciate it. And if you liked it, share it, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Thanks a lot. Bye.